Hello, everyone. So, if the average American produces 4.5 pounds of garbage a day, it's about 1,500 pounds each year, and there's about 320 million Americans. I'll let you do the math on that. Let's just say it equals a lot of garbage. And so, our essential question today is what is the best way to manage that garbage? And so, here we go into the subject of garbology. And so I've got a skeleton of notes here for you, and so I'll let the thing pause on this page so you can jot some of this down, or you can hit pause too. Our essential questions are what are landfills and what challenges do they address with storing garbage? And back in the day, they used to not have landfills. It was called the dump, and some people still called landfills the dump today, but really they're not dumps anymore. And the difference is a dump is just it's uncontrolled, it's unregulated. A landfill is the opposite, and so you've got this highly controlled and fairly high-tech storage of garbage, and they're trying to address five or a handful of problems that come with garbage. And so we're going to go through these here. And so the first one that is the most important one is groundwater contamination or preventing it. And so if you recall, a water molecule has got an uneven charge, and so you got this positive side and a negative side. And really how you want to think of a water molecule is like a magnet that's flowing through the watershed or a pile of garbage or whatever. And that it can leach out or dissolve other things that have charges. And so you want to think of the landfill as like this giant test tube full of, thousands of reactants. The medicine that got thrown away, or the little bit of bleach that's still in the bottle, or the batteries that somehow got into the landfill, and just all these things, like all this garbage kind of like reacting together. And then here comes the charged water molecule to dissolve that. And they call that leachate because it leaches it out. And some people call leachate garbage juice. And so here's a very simple drawing of a landfill. And the main thing that distinguishes this is this got this liner here is what they call it, and really it's like a barrier to not let the water get through, or the leachate. So they've got this leachate collection system, and so a liner is made out of clay, which is nice because it's in the earth, so you dig a hole and hopefully there's clay in there. And then they also put plastic with it too, but you need a lot of plastic, so this is a fairly expensive thing that happens to prevent the groundwater pollution, but that would be even more expensive. And so that's point one. So the other big problem is methane production, and maybe you've heard that of people digging up landfills and finding newspapers in there from decades ago that you can still read, and banana peels and things like that. And the reason for that is in a landfill, that garbage is really compacted together to the point where there's no oxygen, there's no air in there, and then what you get is anaerobic, without oxygen, decomposition, which happens slowly. But one of the products of it is methane gas, which if you get a lot of that in one area, it can be explosive, so that's obviously a problem. And then it's also a greenhouse gas too, and so you're producing more greenhouse gases that way. And so, but one neat thing about that, and so I guess they basically try and capture that gas is how the landfills address it. But so you can capture the gas, and then you can actually burn it in a generator and produce electricity. And Sunnyvale used to do that. They would, capture the methane gas from their landfill, and they actually provided electricity for the entire town or the entire city. Sunnyvale is right next to San Jose. But now the landfill closed, so they don't do that anymore. But I mean, it's great if you can get a waste product and actually make it turn it into something useful. And then also, what will happen is people will, if you can't get enough methane to make electricity, what they'll do is they'll just burn it off, like here in this picture. And so maybe you've seen this before. It's not just at landfills, but you might see open flame somewhere, and that's what they're doing. They're burning off methane gas, which is actually a good thing to do because methane is a more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And so methane actually breaks down into carbon dioxide on its own, but it's better to burn it off. And so those are the two big problems. So I guess a more local problem is with what I call the vermin, which are like rats and gulls and pigeons and animals that you really don't want around. And so obviously the garbage and all that food and stuff in there will attract that. And it also smells, as you can imagine, especially on a hot day. And so what they'll do is they'll do this capping thing, is what it's called. They just cap it with soil, or sometimes it'll be sludge from a wastewater treatment area. But they're trying to cover up that garbage, get rid of the smells, keep animals out of there. And so that seems like a fairly easy one to address. And then here's another big one. And so what do we do now that we're running out of space with these landfills? And so how far are we willing to transport our garbage? And so what I want to do is show you a Google Earth thing here. And so here we are at MA. And so just to give you an idea of where your garbage goes, or MA's garbage, here we are at C0. We're going to go, the first stop we're going to make is to the San Carlos transfer station. Gets picked up, goes up 101 to San Carlos. Here we are, zeroing in. And it goes to this building right in here, and it gets sorted out. And then it gets put on a truck, and then it gets shipped out to actually down Highway 92. Here we go towards Half Moon Bay. There we go. So there's 92. I'm going to back up just a little bit. And so this is, again, Half Moon Bay would make a great quiz question. This is where your garbage goes. There's the ocean. That's actually Ox Mountain is what this place is called, Ox Mountain in Half Moon Bay. And I actually just learned today that it is going to be open for another 21 years, actually, so we got a little bit of time. So there's the landfill right there. I'll try and get a little bit closer to it. That big old mountain there that's kind of carved up. And so something that I definitely haven't seen when I drive down 92. It's a little bit off the road. And so open for another till I guess 2034, I think. And so just to give you another idea, up here in San Francisco, now we're going to San Francisco. And so San Francisco, enlightened San Francisco, actually produces more garbage than anywhere else in the United States, 7.2 pounds per person. I used to live there, but we're not getting a very clear stream of this. But it'll just to give you an idea. So in San Francisco, the garbage doesn't go to Ox Mountain; it goes out to Livermore and to the Ultimate Pass. So just to give you an idea of how far that is. So I think it's about 70 miles out to Livermore, and this is even less clear. And that one is actually not going to be open that much longer. That one's open till 2015, and then they're going to go to closer to Sacramento, so even further away. And so really we start, imagine truck after truck of garbage going to those places. So we're putting a lot of energy into transporting garbage. And nationwide, you've got trains, filled up with garbage, taking it out of city centers. You've got barges, and you've got semi-trucks going down the freeway that, that are full of garbage, getting hauled all over the place. And so it's a huge, huge business. Definitely job security in the garbage business. But so that, that you got to recognize that there's a lot of energy being used to produce the garbage and then to manage the garbage and dispose of it, and that has got other effects that go along with it. So one last thing here. So one of the kind of cool things that goes along with this is once the landfills close, they try and reclaim the land. And in the book that you guys read, there's a thing on what they're doing in New York to claim that Kill Falls area. Here's one a little bit closer to home that's pretty cool. And so some of you might recognize this. This is Shoreline Amphitheaters in Mountain View, California. And there is one of the greatest bands of all times on stage, the Grateful Dead. But at any rate, so Shoreline is built on a landfill. And they actually still have some garbage going on one side of the park there. You can see it. But so this is built on a landfill, which I definitely didn't know about, and had been there a handful of times. But apparently on hot summer's nights, it starts to get a little bit ripe with garbage. And the first concert there, which I actually believe Mr. Krieger, math teacher at MA, was at. It was a Steve Winwood concert, and the story goes is that there was methane flaring up. The methane was leaking out of the land, and it was like flaring up a little bit during the concert. So pretty crazy, but so Shoreline's a nice place to go. So they've reclaimed that land, which is cool. So, but one thing to think about though is that you can have some settling issues because of that slow decomposition, and the land can kind of shift underneath it, and you can get collapsing and things like that. And so, just real quick, other options for dealing with garbage. Incineration is frowned upon a lot of the times. Burning the garbage, because then you've got, of course, an air pollution problem. But you've also got, you can capture the energy, and so that can be a source of energy if we can figure out how to do it cleanly. But you'll find out, at least in the United States, we produce way too much garbage, but we at least can kind of deal with it a little bit. You go to developing countries and they don't have facilities like this, and you get lots of dumping going on, and it's uncontrolled, and you got tons of garbage there too. And so incineration, we should give it a, not pass it up, keep an open mind. So moving ahead, just a couple things just to close this out. So things to think about. So what is the solution to all these obvious problems? I think the biggest one is we've got to start reducing the amount of waste. Not recycling is all fine and good, but we've got to reduce and start saying no to excessive packaging and things like that. And the external costs are on every corner of this, and we've got to stop the madness. And so, secondly, for recycling, we need to create markets for those goods. We can only recycle to a certain point. There's got to be a place for those products to go. And so, aluminum and glass are great for recycling because it's primary recycling, and you can turn it back into the same product. But like plastic, it's like, what do you do with that? There's really not a market. There's a huge glut in it. But this is interesting. So here's an article. The one place that is taking our garbage is China. And so they will, we actually export these raw materials to them. They'll process them, and of course then they turn them back into products and sell them back to the United States. And so just today I learned at the transfer station, they're putting basically all of their paper and plastic that they're recycling in the Bay Area is being exported. So it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. We export the garbage, the waste, and they turn it back into something and sell it back to us, and you've got this kind of bizarre cycle going on there that can't be too good. At any rate, so we need to get beyond cradle to grave products and start thinking cradle to cradle, and start really figuring out how to do that in a much more greener way. We can do better than what we're doing right now, for sure. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up right there. Thanks for hanging with me. If you want to hit pause and get the last notes, feel free. But thanks again, and we'll see you next time.